What if the very things society tells you are absolutely essential for success are actually the things making you miserable?
Oh, like moving at breakneck speed all the time.
Right? Moving fast, optimizing every single second of your day, and chasing this intense, fiery passion. We're constantly fed this narrative that if you aren't running at maximum capacity, you're just losing.
Yeah, it's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is.
Yeah.
But today's deep dive is going to completely dismantle that idea. We are looking at a really fascinating conceptual map and essay, and it's called The Architecture of a Good Day, May 2nd.
Such a great piece.
Yeah, and the mission here for you, the listener, is to construct a mental blueprint for surviving and thriving in a chaotic world, without burning out or just becoming entirely brittle in the process.
And the sources synthesized in this map they're incredibly diverse. I mean, we are pulling from modern business strategists like Seth Godin and Steve Blank, but then also historical heavyweights, right? Like Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi, all the way back to ancient Stoic philosophy and even traditional Salish teachings.
It's a wild mix.
It really is. But what the author has done is weave all these seemingly, disparate voices into a unified structural guide for a durable life. It functions as a literal architecture for the mind.
And I think by the time we finish mapping this out today, you will likely have a totally transformed understanding of two very loaded words, which are passion and apology.
Oh, absolutely. Those two get completely flipped on their heads.
Yeah, but to build any kind of architecture that doesn't just, collapse at the first sign of a storm, we have to start by pouring the concrete. We have to start with the foundation of inner control.
Right, because before we can even touch concepts like resilience or life purpose, we have to establish a really rigid boundary between what is ours to manage and what belongs to the rest of the world.
Okay, let's unpack this, because getting that boundary wrong is where the entire structure just fails.
Exactly.
And the source material points us to a remarkably brief formula for an apology from the writer Kevin Kelly. He suggests that when you apologize, you should hold only 3 words in your mind.
Just 3 words.
Yeah, quickly, specifically, sincerely.
And the author of our essay points out that there is a massive amount of philosophy compressed into those 6 words. I mean, it acts as a capsule theory for human action.
I read Kelly's formula, and I immediately thought about, like the mechanics of playing a sport.
Okay, how so?
Well, the score in a really difficult game is often determined more by the penalties of our poor play than by the highlights of our good play.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's true.
Right, so when you commit a foul, the apology is your play. You execute the pass, you take the shot. But the transactional nature of how we usually apologize, it demands a specific return.
Right, and we want absolution. We want the other person to say, I forgive you.
Exactly. But how the other person receives the apology is completely out of bounds. It's not your play to make.
It's so true. And that transactional expectation is the trap. I mean, notice what Kelly leaves out of his formula.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, apologize until the other person's anger subsides. He doesn't say apologize in a way that fully repairs your reputation.
Because you can't control that.
Exactly. Those outcomes require controlling another human being's internal state. Kelly's method is just pure stoicism. The Stoic philosophy draws this uncrossable line. You have absolute dominion over your preparation and your execution.
Right.
So you apologize quickly without letting your ego delay it. You do it specifically, acknowledging the exact failure without, those vague deflections.
Like, I'm sorry if you felt offended.
Ugh, the worst. Yes.
Yeah.
And you do it sincerely. And the moment those words leave your mouth, your jurisdiction ends. The reaction belongs entirely to the universe.
Releasing that need for validation is brutal, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because the ego violently resists the idea of leaving a situation unresolved in the eyes of someone else.
Yeah.
But it ties directly into another crucial source in the essay from Jonathan Lockwood Huey.
Right, the passionate observer concept.
Yeah, he writes about the necessity of being a passionate observer of life, which really hinges on a very specific mechanical practice, and that is separating the event from the emotion.
Which is so hard to do in the moment.
It is, because the event is the objective reality of what happened in the world. The emotion is your internal subjective rendering of it.
And the architecture of almost all human misery is basically built on blurring those two territories.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, let's look at the anatomy of a grudge, right? Someone insults you. The actual vibration of vocal cords and the words spoken, it lasts, 3 seconds?
Right, and then it's over.
Exactly. But the emotion, the internal churning, the obsession with your injured reputation, those imaginary arguments you have in the shower a week later.
Oh, we all do that.
We all do it, but that is entirely self-generated. When we fail to separate the event from the emotion, we trick ourselves into believing the world is continuously inflicting pain on us, when in reality, we are the ones holding our own hand on the hot stove. You just have to execute your part, process the reality of the event, and refuse to let it colonize your internal state.
Man, that's powerful. So the foundation is poured.
Yeah.
We understand the boundary of control. But a foundation just sits there, you know?
Right, you have to actually live.
Yeah, at some point you have to move forward through the world. So this is where the blueprint shifts to the mechanics of momentum. And the source material forces a choice between durable resilience and brittle speed.
Which is a tough sell today.
It really is. I'll be honest, the modern instinct is to reject this entirely. We live in an era that worships optimization.
Oh, completely.
Like the cultural mandate is to be the Formula One car of your industry, to hack your morning routine, accelerate your career path. We celebrate the head start. The person moving the fastest always looks like the winner. So why shouldn't we want to be the fastest on the track?
Well, the F1 car is a brilliant piece of engineering, sure. But Seth Godin's insight in our sources totally dismantles the illusion of why it works.
Yeah, how so?
So an F1 car is heavily optimized for a single metric, right? Speed. And to achieve that speed, it relies on immense leverage. It has tires that only last a few dozen miles, a chassis that shatters on impact, and aerodynamics that only function on perfectly paved, debris-free tracks.
Right.
Leverage, by definition, trades durability for peak performance under ideal conditions, and that makes the whole system incredibly brittle.
So the moment you take that F1 car off the track and try to run an errand downtown,
Exactly.
the entire multi-million-dollar machine is just defeated by a speed bump or like a light drizzle.
Yeah, because the real world is not a perfectly paved track. It is chaotic, it's unpredictable, and it's full of friction.
So true.
When we construct our careers or our daily routines like an F1 car, relying on zero interruptions, borrowing against our future health by not sleeping, betting everything on the market, behaving exactly as predicted, we shatter under ordinary conditions. Godin introduces the alternative model here, which is the turtle's advantage. The turtle is not attempting to win a sprint against the hare. The turtle is engineered to move reliably day after day, absorbing the shocks of the environment without stopping.
And Steve Blank's startup philosophy, which the essay pulls in, illustrates this so beautifully in the business world.
Right, he talks about what actually matters for survival.
Yeah, Blank argues that the defining metric of a startup isn't the massive venture capital you raise, because the capital is just the F1 engine, right?
Exactly.
It creates an artificial, ideal condition that masks reality. What actually dictates survival is whether customers stick around. The metric is retention, which Blank frames as a form of love returned.
I love that phrasing, love returned, because raising $50 million allows a company to buy a massive amount of speed. They can flood the market with ads, acquire users rapidly.
Yeah, it looks super successful.
Right. But when the market shifts or the funding dries up, when the rain starts falling on the track, that artificial speed disappears.
Right, and then what's left?
Exactly. If the product hasn't earned actual organic traction, which is the love return from people whose lives are genuinely improved by it, the company just collapses.
Yeah.
The turtle startup, however, might grow slowly, bootstrapping its way forward, but it builds structural integrity. It builds a real community.
There is an anonymous quote highlighted in this section that I think we really need to sit with. Slow progress is still progress.
Simple, but profound.
It is, because people constantly abandon their goals because they feel like they aren't moving fast enough. They measure their day-to-day speed against someone else's highlight reel.
Oh, social media makes that so much worse.
Completely.
Yeah.
And they completely miss the mechanical truth that durability, compounded over decades, is how monumental things are actually built. Quiet victories don't look like victories while they're happening.
That's the thing. The F1 car commands all the attention on the first lap, but the turtle is the one that actually crosses a finish line 10 years later.
Exactly. So durability keeps you moving, but, an engine without a steering wheel just drives you in circles.
All right, you need a destination.
Yeah, where are we actually aiming this resilience? We need direction, which brings us to the next structural pillar of the map, and that's focus beyond self and the active curation of our identity.
Because moving reliably is only valuable if you're moving towards something meaningful. And to figure out where you are going, you first have to ruthlessly edit what you are carrying with you.
William Osler is quoted in the sources with this really powerful directive. He says, shut out all of your past Accept that which will help you weather your tomorrows.
I love that.
It's like the mechanics of packing a backpack for a really grueling hike, right? If you are climbing a mountain, you don't reach down and put the heavy rocks you tripped over yesterday into your bag.
Right, that would be crazy.
You only pack the map, the compass, and the supplies that actually serve the ascent.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological mechanism here is not amnesia. I mean, Osler's not suggesting we live in denial of our trauma or our past mistakes.
Yeah, you're not ignoring it.
No, he is demanding deliberate curation. You extract the lesson from the failure, which is the map, and you leave the heavy, paralyzing shame the rock on the ground.
Wow, yeah.
And this curation process is deeply tied to Ralph Waldo Emerson's philosophy, which is also cited in the map. Emerson states that the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be.
Because the things we choose to put in the backpack eventually become our identity.
Exactly.
Like if you pack your grievances, your victimhood, and your anger every single morning, you are actively deciding to become a bitter person. Identity isn't something that just happens to you. It's the cumulative result of what you refuse to put down.
And the editing process reveals your purpose. The sources offer a very specific definition of what purpose actually looks like here. Angela Duckworth defines it simply as the realization that what we do matters to people other than ourselves.
Right.
This completely strips away the modern obsession with, like, finding your passion as some sort of self-indulgent treasure hunt.
The traditional Salish teaching included in the essay mirrors Duckworth perfectly. The teaching says that everything on earth has a purpose, every disease has an herb to cure it, and every person has a mission.
Yeah.
It frames human existence as this ecosystem where your unique identity is specifically required to solve a problem or serve a need out in the world. You aren't searching for what makes you feel the most important, you know. You are searching for where you are most useful.
And Mahatma Gandhi brings the consequence of this into stark relief. He warned that the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed.
That's a classic quote.
It is, because greed, this compulsive need for endless accumulation and external validation, it's usually just a symptom of a missing purpose. When you don't know your mission, you try to fill that void by hoarding wealth or status or attention. But when you align your curated identity with a purpose that serves others, that frantic compulsion just quiets down. The work itself becomes infinitely more interesting than the applause it might generate.
Okay, so let's stress test this architecture a bit. We've poured the foundation of inner control. We've installed the engine of durable resilience instead of brittle speed. We have curated our backpack, and we've gripped the steering wheel of purpose.
Sounds pretty solid.
In a vacuum, yeah, this sounds invincible.
Yeah.
But the world is not a quiet room.
No, it's not.
It is messy, it's aggressive, and it's full of conflict. So how does this mental citadel hold up under the massive pressure of, say, toxic people or just harsh circumstances?
Well, a philosophy that only works in isolation isn't a philosophy, it's a vacation.
Huh.
The true test of this architecture is defending it when someone is actively trying to breach the walls. The essay refers to this as the citadel under pressure, and it draws heavily on Robert Greene's analysis of human nature.
Yeah, Greene is brilliant on this stuff.
He really is. He identifies toxic types who use constant erratic pressure to overwhelm your mind. Their entire strategy relies on creating chaos, disrespecting boundaries, and manipulating your emotions so you literally can't think straight.
And the natural human instinct, when faced with disrespect or manipulation, is to match the energy. We want to fight back. We want to prove them wrong. It feels like passivity to just stand there and take it.
Right, but Greene's counterintuitive advice, which is rooted deeply in Stoic practice, is that stillness is the most aggressive strategic weapon you have.
Wait, stillness is aggressive.
Yes, because stillness is not passivity. Passivity is letting someone run over you. Stillness is a highly active refusal to participate in their manufactured chaos.
Oh, I see.
Toxic behavior requires a dance partner. The aggressor needs your reaction to maintain their leverage. They feed on your defense, your anger, or your anxiety.
So if we bring this back to our earlier metaphor, the toxic person is the Formula One car.
Exactly.
They're speeding around, aggressively trying to dominate the space, and relying on the ideal condition of you reacting predictably.
Right. And to defeat the F1 car, you don't try to outrace it. You change the environment. By remaining completely still and unresponsive to their provocations, you become the off-road terrain. The toxic person's brittle leverage instantly loses traction. They spin their wheels, they exhaust their energy, and they often end up overreaching or exposing their own erratic behavior.
Because you refuse to give them the friction they needed to operate.
What is that?
That is just a masterclass in emotional strategy. But, we can't just be silent observers forever. Sometimes we do have to engage. We have to correct someone, argue a point, or stand up for a boundary.
Right, you can't be silent all the time.
And the essay brings in Leo Tolstoy to address the mechanics of engagement. He uses this brilliant metaphor, comparing the beginning of a quarrel to a flood breaking through a dam. Once the water rushes through, the structural integrity is gone, and you cannot stop the destruction.
And Tolstoy's preventative instruction here is profound. He says, make your words very soft and your heart hard.
Which is funny because the modern instinct is the exact reverse.
Oh, totally.
We use extremely hard words to cover up a really soft, insecure heart.
Yes. Tolstoy recognized that in human conflict, form is frequently more important than content. The hard heart does not mean callousness or cruelty.
Right.
It means structural integrity. It is an unwavering, rigid commitment to the truth of your boundary or your argument. But the soft words, those are the delivery mechanism.
Because humans have an incredibly robust psychological defense system.
Exactly. If you deliver the truth wrapped in anger or sarcasm or yelling, the other person's ego will instantly reject the content because it feels attacked by the form.
Yeah, like if I scream a mathematical fact at you, you aren't going to process the math. You're only going to process the threat of the screaming.
That's a perfect example. Tolstoy is telling us to bypass the ego's defense system, pass the truth along with a fundamental regard for the other person's humanity.
Right.
It isn't about being overly sweet. It's about maintaining a steady, respectful tone that makes the hard truth impossible to ignore, because you aren't giving them the excuse of your bad behavior to dismiss it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because this brings us to the most counterintuitive piece of the entire source map, and it's the redefinition I promised at the beginning of the show.
It's a proverb.
Yeah. In the section on defending the citadel, the author highlights a proverb mentioned in the sources. Be free of passion, but full of love. Now, every piece of cultural messaging we receive tells us that passion is the ultimate virtue, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We are told that to care deeply, to create great art, or to fight for justice, we require a burning, volatile emotional fire.
Right, but we constantly conflate depth of care with emotional volatility. To decode this proverb, the author points us to the Latin root of the word passion, which is patior. It translates to enduring, undergoing, or suffering.
The root of passion isn't enthusiasm, it's suffering.
Yes. In the classical Stoic framework, passion is the state of being acted upon. It is pure reactivity. When you are in a state of passion, you are suffering the effects of the external world. The world does something, and you are jerked around by the turbulent reaction.
Wow.
So to be free of passion means you cease to be a puppet of circumstance. You stop being the thing that events just happen to. You operate from a localized, stable center of control.
It connects right back to the event versus emotion distinction we discussed at the foundation. Being free of passion means you don't let the external event hijack your internal emotional rendering.
Exactly.
But how does love factor in? If we strip away the volatile fire of passion, doesn't love become kind of cold?
Well, the second half of the proverb, but full of love, answers that. Love in this philosophical architecture is not a chaotic, burning fire that consumes everything around it. It is a steady, sustainable warmth.
Ah, okay.
Volatile fire burns the people who get too close and eventually runs out of oxygen. Steady warmth is the energy that remains when you have learned to hold your care and your convictions without the explosive reactivity. It is the soft words delivered from a place of deep respect rather than the screaming born of uncontrolled passion.
We have mapped out an enormous, towering philosophical structure today. I mean, we've covered severing the transactional nature of apologies, choosing the durable turtle over the brittle F1 car, curating the backpack of our identity, starving toxic people of their fuel by becoming off-road terrain, and refining volatile passion into steady, actionable love.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
If a person wakes up tomorrow and tries to actively hold all of this architecture in their mind at once, the cognitive load alone will crush them. They'll be entirely paralyzed.
Oh, yeah. A system this comprehensive becomes a trap if you treat it as a daily checklist. The author of the map understands this, which is why the entire blueprint narrows down to a single, hyper-focused operating instruction at its base.
So what does this all mean? Like, what is the instruction?
Have one good day and repeat it.
Just that.
Just that. Stripped of all the philosophical abstraction, the survival of the architecture depends entirely on micro-execution. You do not build a durable life by trying to manage the next 10 years. You build it by executing the mechanics of a single day. The anonymous quote in the map promises that your life changes when you put more energy into your dreams than into your fears.
Right.
The mechanism for freeing up that energy is simply running this system from morning to night. When you stop wasting immense caloric energy on uncontrollable reactions, on manufacturing imaginary grudges, and on attempting to sustain brittle leverage, you suddenly possess a reservoir of energy you didn't know you had.
Energy you can actually channel into your purpose, your work, and the people who rely on you.
Exactly. And you just focus on doing it until you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Then, the next morning, you do it again. The repetition is the architecture.
It is profoundly grounding to shrink the infinite complexity of life down to a 24-hour window. If this entire philosophy of resilience and purpose boils down to laying just one good brick today, I want to leave you with a final thought to explore on your own.
Yeah.
We talked extensively about Tolstoy's advice to use soft words and a hard heart when engaging in conflict with others. But think about the internal dialogue you listen to every single day.
That's a great point.
When you make a mistake, when you fail to live up to your own architecture, what tone do you use with yourself? If you want this mental citadel to truly stand, you have to apply that same rule internally. You must maintain the hard heart of rigorous personal standards, but you must deliver those standards to yourself with soft words.
Yeah.
Are you using steady warmth to correct your path, or are you burning down your own foundation with the volatile passion of self-criticism? Look closely at the brick you are holding right now. Set it down quickly, specifically, sincerely, and simply reach for the next one.